Thank you, Presiding Officer, and happy International Women's Day to everyone celebrating. I also want to place on record my best wishes to Nicola Sturgeon as she counts down the days and hours to leaving the office of First Minister. She is our first woman First Minister, but hopefully not the last. And that is in no way a comment about the current leadership contest underway. But I do hope that, regardless of political beliefs and party affiliations, women and girls across Scotland, the UK and indeed beyond will have taken inspiration, courage and confidence from the First Minister's commitment to public service. And I think we all agree that leadership is for women and girls, regardless of their background. Colleagues today have been reflecting on the collective progress that has been made towards achieving equality and equity for women and girls, and there is a lot to celebrate. But as the First Minister and others have said today, there is much more still to do. There is a hell of a lot still to do. So I want to turn to historic forced adoption. Last week at First Minister's Questions, I received a positive indication from the First Minister that the Scottish Government has been listening carefully to the women and families affected by historic forced adoption. And I am pleased that this was referenced and reinforced in the First Minister's speech today. We all know an apology is due, and I hope that is going to happen very soon in the time that the First Minister has left. Because in the gallery today, we are joined by Marion Macmillan. Marion's son was taken from her in 1967, simply because she was an unmarried mother. And it's really hard to talk about this as a historic injustice when Marion and her family and thousands of others who've gone through a similar experience are still living with this trauma today and its life-changing impacts. Marion is a survivor of multiple injustices and adversities. Forced adoption, DES or stilbestrol, the drug given to women to dry up their breast milk as their babies were snatched from their arms, a drug that we now know increases the risk of cancer and other diseases. And she is a mesh-injured woman. And it's really a miracle that Marion is here because she's also living with cancer. And I'm looking now at Marion, and she's not a victim. She is a survivor, and she is a warrior woman who has supported and championed countless women, not just in Scotland, but right around the world. And Marion could not be here with us in the public gallery in June 2001 when this Parliament spoke with one voice on the need for a formal apology. But I am pleased she is here today, supported by her husband, George, and sitting with another phenomenal woman who also happens to be called Marion, the award-winning journalist Marion Scott, who is the political editor of the Sunday Post, who's frankly been fighting for justice for these women and families when so many others in the media were simply not interested. So we need warrior women in our media too. And forced adoption has left emotional scars on mothers, fathers, adoptees and extended families. And none of us can change what happened, but we can acknowledge the harm caused through a formal apology alongside a plan for access to specialist trauma-informed support and better access to adoption records. Esther Robertson describes herself as a mixed-race black girl growing up in a white adoptive family during the 1960s and 70s. She was taken from her mother, Anne Bruce Lindenberg, and I know the First Minister might have more time, but I do recommend to her and all colleagues to listen to the Looking for Esther podcast. It's on Spotify, and it was written and produced by Esther's partner, Gail Anderson. And that's about Esther's 50-year search for answers on her birth parents, her background and her identity. So it's a really important perspective. And while I'm name-checking women, and I've got a wee gift for the First Minister because I know she likes books, this is Adoption and Loss by Evelyn Robinson, a Scottish woman who left our nation in 1970 after her son was taken. But Evelyn has been instrumental in the Australian adoption apology. And again, I've got other copies if other colleagues want to come and speak to me after. I've got some in the office. But there's so much we need to learn from these women, and I feel that we're finally getting there. I've mentioned the drug that was given to Mary, and colleagues know I'm very passionate about women's health. We had a roundtable discussion, I think about, it was over a year ago now, and we heard from Caitlin McCarthy, who is an American educator and award-winning screenwriter of an upcoming feature film about the DES drug disaster. And she was inspired to write about that because she is a DES daughter. There's so many more women to mention, and I know I've got a few seconds left. I also want to talk about period dignity because others have mentioned it. And I just want to let colleagues know, I had the privilege of being a guest speaker at Cambridge University at the weekend. The work that we are doing collectively in Scotland on period equality is creating waves around the world. But I heard from Dr. Zareen Rui Ahmed, who's been inspired to set up a charity and a business to get free period products to as many people as possible, but particularly to women in refugee camps, inspired to do so because her daughter had a dream and a vision, but her daughter was abducted and murdered when she was 19. So I didn't want to dwell on violence against women today, but we shouldn't have to turn to these dark times to find a way forward for gender equality. I am running out of time and there's so much more to say, but I want to ask all colleagues, if you haven't done so, to download the Pick Up My Period app, get it on your smartphones, all your devices, because Shona Robus and I had a really good meeting last week. There's excellent work happening in local government around period products, but we all have to tell our constituents how they can access the products. I just want to finish with a very short quote from Dolly Parton, because Cher got a name check and I don't want to leave Dolly out. We want all women to believe in themselves. So all I want to say is find out who you are and do it on purpose.
Thank you, Ms Lennon.